Deathworlders. Respond Alien SOS with a ruthless fleet response. The cargo ship, Eternal Horizon, drifted through the black emptiness of space, its hull reflecting the distant light of a dying red star. Inside the bridge, Captain Minho sat in his command chair, reviewing the day's navigation reports. The ship carried medical supplies destined for the outer colonies, a routine run that should take another 6 days. Minho was a veteran of Earth's space expansion, his face weathered by years of service. He had seen humanity go from barely leaving their solar system to becoming members of the Galactic Council in just 12 years. It still amazed him sometimes. Out here, among the stars, humans were the newcomers. Every other species had been traveling space for thousands of years. They looked at humans with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Earth was what the galaxy called a Class 12 death world. It was a planet so dangerous that most species couldn't survive there for more than a few hours. The gravity would crush their bones. The weather would kill them. The animals would eat them. But humans had evolved there, had grown strong because of it. The galaxy didn't quite know what to do with them yet. Hana, the ship's navigator, sat at her station, monitoring the long-range sensors. She was young, only 26, but sharp as a knife. Her fingers moved across the holographic display with practiced ease. Taiyang, the weapons officer, was running diagnostics on their defensive systems. They were a cargo ship, not a warship, but every human vessel carried weapons. Old habits from Earth died hard. Yuna, their engineer, was down in the engine room, as usual. She preferred the company of machines to people, and the engines hummed smoothly under her care. The alarm shattered the peaceful silence. Hana's head snapped up, her eyes widening as data flooded her screen. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress beacon. It's Velen." Minho stood immediately. The Velen were peaceful traders, herbivores who wouldn't hurt anyone. They were good people. "Put it through." The transmission crackled with static. A voice came through, high-pitched and terrified. "This is Velen Convoy Delta 7. We are under attack. Repeat, under attack. The Krath have disabled our engines. Our shields are failing. We have children aboard. Please, anyone, help us. We don't have much time." The message cut off, then repeated. An automated distress loop. Taiyang pulled up tactical data. "Captain, I'm reading the convoy's location. They're 4 hours away at maximum speed. And sir, I'm detecting multiple hostile signatures. At least 60 ships. It's the Krath horde." Minho's jaw tightened. The Krath were pirates, raiders who had terrorized the outer sectors for decades. They were brutal and efficient. The Galactic Council had tried to stop them for years, but the bureaucracy moved slowly. By the time the Council approved military action, the Krath would be long gone. Hana looked at him, her expression conflicted. "Sir, protocol says we need to verify the distress call and contact the nearest military outpost. That could take days." "How long do the Velen have?" Minho asked quietly. Taiyang checked his display. "Based on their shield readings? Maybe an hour. Probably less." Minho didn't hesitate. His voice cut through the bridge like steel. "Set course for the Velen convoy. Maximum speed. Hana, plot the fastest route possible. I don't care how dangerous it is." Hana's fingers flew across her controls. "Sir, the fastest route takes us through the Helios binary system. The gravitational forces will be extreme. It could tear the ship apart." "Can we survive it?" Minho asked. Hana ran the calculations, her face pale. "If we reinforce the hull and if Yuna can keep the engines stable, maybe. It will hurt." "Do it." Minho opened a ship-wide channel. "All crew, secure for extreme maneuvers. Yuna, get to the bridge. We need maximum engine output and structural reinforcement." Yuna's voice came back immediately. "On my way. What are we doing?" "Answering a distress call," Minho said simply. Minutes later, Yuna burst onto the bridge, tools still hanging from her belt. She listened to the plan and grinned, wild and fierce. "You're all crazy. I love it. Give me 10 minutes to reinforce the critical systems." While Yuna worked, Taiyang approached Minho. "Sir, we're a cargo ship. We have defensive weapons, but against 60 Krath vessels." "I know," Minho said. "Send a message back to Earth. Tell them what we're doing. Tell them. Tell them Deathworlders are responding. Taeyang nodded and began composing the message. The words were simple but carried weight. Earth would understand. 10 minutes later, the Eternal Horizon plunged into the binary system. The ship shook violently as gravitational forces pulled at it from two directions. The crew felt the pressure increase, felt their bodies grow heavy as the ship accelerated to impossible speeds. For most species in the galaxy, this maneuver would be fatal. Their bodies would break under the strain. But humans had evolved under Earth's gravity. They gritted their teeth and endured. Hana guided the ship through the gravitational dance, using the star's pull to slingshot them forward. The hull screamed in protest. Alarms blared. But Yuna had done her job well. The ship held together. They emerged from the binary system at incredible velocity, cutting their travel time in half. Taeyang had been busy during the flight. He had converted their industrial plasma cutters into makeshift weapons. The mining charges in their cargo hold could be rigged as missiles. It wasn't much, but it was something. "Captain," Hana said, her voice tight. "We're approaching the Velen convoy. I'm reading 67 hostile vessels. The Velen ships are barely holding on." Minho stood, straightening his uniform. He looked at his small crew. These humans from Earth who had just survived a journey that would kill most beings in the galaxy. They looked back at him with determination. "Open a channel to Earth Command," Minho ordered. "Let them know we've arrived. Then open a channel to the Krath." Taeyang's eyebrows rose. "Sir?" "They get one chance," Minho said. "One opportunity to surrender. After that, they're not prisoners anymore. They're practice." The channel opened. Minho's face appeared on every Krath vessel's display. He looked calm, almost friendly. His voice was steady. "This is Captain Minho of the Terran vessel, Eternal Horizon. You are attacking beings under the protection of the Galactic Council. You have one opportunity to surrender and face trial." On the lead Krath vessel, their commander looked at the display and laughed. One cargo ship against his entire fleet? These humans must be insane. Minho waited exactly 30 seconds. When no response came, his expression didn't change. "You have made your choice." He closed the channel and turned to his crew. "All power to engines. Hana, plot a ramming course through their largest destroyer. Taeyang, fire everything we have. Yuna, keep us flying." The Eternal Horizon accelerated directly toward the Krath fleet. Its hull began to glow white-hot from friction against the stellar wind. To the Krath, it looked like a meteor, like death itself coming for them. On Earth, Admiral Jiho received Minho's transmission. He looked at the tactical display showing one human cargo ship diving into a fleet of 67 pirate vessels. Around him, his council argued for caution, for proper procedure, for measured response. Jiho thought of the Velen children in those ships. He thought of what humanity had fought for, what they had suffered to reach the stars. He pressed a button on his console. "Activate Protocol Shepard. All vessels, emergency deployment. We have humans in combat." Across 3 solar systems, every human military ship received the call. Humanity was going to war, and they were bringing everything they had. Deathworlders. Respond Alien SOS with a ruthless fleet response. Admiral Jiho stood in the command center on Luna, Earth's moon, watching the tactical display light up with incoming acknowledgements. Every human military vessel within range was responding to Protocol Shepard. The emergency activation meant one thing: humans were in danger, and the entire fleet would answer. Commander Nari, captain of the destroyer Soul's Vengeance, was the first to confirm. Her ship had been patrolling the Outer Rim, hunting smugglers. Now she redirected all power to her engines. "All crew, combat stations. We have friendlies under attack. Maximum burn to coordinates." Her crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this. Every human in the fleet knew the protocol. When one of them called for help, everyone came running. Captain Doyen commanded the carrier, Pacific Storm, a massive vessel that housed 300 Marines and enough firepower to level a small moon. He was in the middle of a diplomatic escort mission when the call came through. He didn't hesitate. All ships, new heading, civilian convoy, you're on your own. We have an emergency. The alien diplomats he was escorting protested, but Doyen wasn't listening anymore. His ship turned sharply, its massive engines flaring to life. Captains Sumi and Hyun commanded the stealth frigates Shadow of Busan and Ghost of Incheon. Their ships were designed for covert operations, built using technology adapted from Earth's submarine warfare. They could run cold and silent, invisible to most sensors. When they received the call, they were already close to the combat zone. "We can be there in 30 minutes, Sumi reported to command. "Then you're our advance force," Admiral Jiho replied. "Get in there and start making noise. The cavalry is coming behind you." Even civilian ships responded. Mining vessels, exploration craft, colony transports. Every human ship in range turned toward the Velen convoy. They might not be military, but they carried humans who had grown up on a planet that tried to kill them every day. They knew how to fight. At the Velen convoy, the situation was desperate. 3 Krath destroyers surrounded the merchant ships, their weapons tearing through weakening shields. Inside the Velen vessels, families huddled together, parents holding their children close. They had sent their distress call, but they knew the truth. Help wouldn't arrive in time. It never did. Then, something impossible happened. 3 Krath picket ships on the outer edge of their formation simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. The Krath commander stared at his tactical display, confused. Some kind of sensor malfunction? Then the Eternal Horizon arrived. The human cargo ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at a speed that violated every safety protocol in the galaxy. Its hull glowed white-hot, trailing plasma like a comet. Most ships would have torn apart at that velocity. The Eternal Horizon didn't even slow down. Captain Minho's voice was calm over the comm. "Tai Yang, fire everything. Yuna, keep us together. Hana, bring us through." The cargo ship slammed directly into a Krath destroyer. The impact was catastrophic. The destroyer's shields overloaded instantly, its hull crumpling like paper. The Eternal Horizon burst through the wreckage, damaged but still flying, still fighting. The Krath fleet erupted into chaos. Alarms blared on every ship. What was that? What just happened? Their commander tried to restore order. "All vessels, target that ship. Destroy it." 40 vessels turned their weapons toward the Eternal Horizon. Energy beams and missiles converged on the small cargo ship. But then, from the darkness of space, more ships appeared. Captains Sumi and Hyun had arrived. Their stealth frigates materialized behind the Krath formation, weapons already firing. They targeted the Krath ship's engines, crippling them before disappearing again into the void. The Krath couldn't track them. Human stealth technology was beyond anything they had encountered. "Where are they?" the Krath commander screamed. "Find them." Before his crew could respond, Commander Nari's destroyer emerged from faster-than-light travel. The Soul's vengeance didn't announce itself. It didn't give warnings. It simply started killing. Nari's tactical officer painted targets. "Multiple hostiles, Commander. They're scattered." "Good," Nari said coldly. "Means we can hit them all. Full offensive spread, kinetic weapons, maximum velocity. Let's show them why you don't threaten civilians." The destroyer's railguns opened fire. Solid metal slugs, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, punched through Krath shields like they weren't even there. The energy shields were designed to stop lasers and plasma. They were useless against simple, brutal kinetic force. Earth's oldest weapon, rocks thrown really, really fast, was still devastatingly effective. 3 Krath ships exploded in rapid succession. The others tried to return fire, but Nari's ship didn't dodge. It took the hits head-on, its heavy armor absorbing damage that would cripple lighter vessels. The destroyer kept advancing, kept firing, relentless as a predator. The Krath commander finally realized what was happening. These weren't galactic peacekeepers following rules of engagement. These were humans. Deathworlders. And they were angry. "All ships, retreat pattern Delta. We need to..." His transmission cut off as Captain Doyen's carrier arrived with the full human fleet. Suddenly, Space was filled with human vessels, destroyers, frigates, corvettes, even civilian mining ships bristling with improvised weapons. They didn't form neat formations. They scattered like a pack of wolves, each ship moving independently but somehow coordinating perfectly. Doyen didn't launch fighters from his carrier. Instead, boarding pods shot out by the dozens, each one aimed at a different Krath vessel. The Krath watched in horror as these pods, moving at suicidal speeds, slammed into their hulls and breached them. Inside each pod were human marines. The Krath were experienced fighters. They had raided hundreds of convoys, but they had never fought humans in close combat. They had never faced beings who evolved under crushing gravity, who could move faster and hit harder than any species in the galaxy. The boarding actions were brutal and short. Human marines stormed through Krath ships like a natural disaster. The pirates tried to resist. They failed. On his flagship, the Krath commander watched his fleet disintegrate. 15 ships gone in the first 5 minutes. 20? 25. His crew was panicking. Some ships were trying to flee, but human vessels were everywhere, cutting off escape routes. Captains Sumi and Hyun continued their ghost attack, appearing and disappearing, each strike crippling another vessel. Commander Nari's destroyer pushed deeper into the formation, absorbing fire that was meant to protect the Krath flagship. Captain Doyen's Marines were taking ship after ship. And through it all, the damaged Eternal Horizon kept fighting. Taeyang had turned every piece of equipment into a weapon. Mining charges became missiles. Industrial plasma cutters burned through Krath hulls. Even their cargo became ammunition when Yuna ejected canisters of liquid oxygen that froze and shattered enemy armor on contact. Admiral Jiho's voice cut across all frequencies. It was calm, measured, and absolutely terrifying in its certainty. Attention, Krath Horde. You are surrounded. Your ships are crippled. Your fleet is broken. You have one final opportunity to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. You will face trial for your crimes. The Krath commander looked at his tactical display. 43 of his 67 ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were scattered, damaged, desperately trying to survive against an enemy that fought like nothing he had ever seen. He had been raiding these sectors for 30 years. He had fought galactic peacekeepers, mercenaries, even military escorts. None of them fought like this. None of them were this fast, this brutal, this utterly ruthless. His communications officer looked at him with wide eyes. "Commander, what do we do?" The commander thought of his reputation, his pride, his years of successful raids. Then he thought of the human ships circling his fleet like sharks around wounded prey. He reached for the comm, ready to surrender. That's when one of his junior officers, panicked and stupid, fired on a nearby human corvette. The corvette's shields absorbed the hit easily. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then, Admiral Jiho's voice returned, and this time there was something cold and final in it. "So be it. All vessels, you are weapons-free. No survivors. Deathworlders, respond." Alien, SOS, with a ruthless fleet response. The human fleet struck with terrible precision. Every ship knew its role. Every captain understood the mission. The Krath had been given their chance to surrender. They had chosen to continue fighting. Now they would learn what happened when humans decided something needed to end. Commander Nari pushed her destroyer forward, directly into the heaviest concentration of enemy ships. Her tactical officer called out warnings about multiple target locks, incoming fire, overwhelming odds. Nari ignored all of it. "All power to forward shields and weapons," she ordered. "We're going through them, not around them." The Soul's vengeance lived up to its name. It accelerated straight into the Krath formation, taking hit after hit. Energy beams scorched its armor. Missiles exploded against its shields. Any other species would have retreated. Humans pressed forward. Nari's railguns fired continuously. Each shot was calculated for maximum damage. She didn't aim for enemy weapons or engines now. She aimed for critical systems, power cores, life support, command centers. Every hit was meant to kill. A Krath-heavy cruiser tried to block her path, positioning itself as a shield for smaller vessels. Nari didn't slow down. Target that cruiser's midsection. Full spread, high explosive rounds. Her weapons officer hesitated for just a moment. Ma'am, at this range, our own shields. Do it, Nari said flatly. The destroyer fired every weapon it had at point-blank range. The Krath cruiser's shields collapsed instantly. The armor held for perhaps 2 seconds before the kinetic rounds punched through. The cruiser broke in half, its reactor going critical. The explosion washed over the Soul's vengeance. Alarms screamed, shields flickered. But the destroyer emerged from the fireball, damaged but still functional, still fighting. Behind it, the broken remains of the cruiser drifted in space. The Krath couldn't comprehend this. Ships weren't supposed to deliberately fly into explosions. Captains weren't supposed to trade damage for kills. But humans had learned warfare on a planet where everything wanted to kill them. They understood sacrifice. They understood acceptable losses. While Nari carved through the center of the enemy formation, Captain Doyen's Marines were making the boarding actions look easy. The combat inside the Krath vessels was savage. Pirates who had terrorized merchant convoys for decades discovered they were prey now. Human Marines moved through the corridors in pairs, covering each other with practiced ease. They wore armor that could withstand small arms fire and augmented their already considerable strength. When they encountered resistance, they dealt with it efficiently and without mercy. One Krath captain tried to use his crew as hostages, threatening to kill them if the humans didn't retreat. The Marine sergeant leading the boarding team didn't even slow down. Your crew attacked civilians, including children. You want mercy? You should have thought of that earlier. The Krath captain didn't get a chance to respond. The engagement was over in seconds. Ship after ship fell to the boarding teams. Captain Doyen coordinated the assault from his carrier, watching the tactical display with cold satisfaction. Team 7, you're clear to move to the next vessel. Team 3, good work on that cruiser. Medical teams, prepare to receive wounded, ours and theirs. Because even in their ruthless efficiency, humans maintained some rules. Once an enemy surrendered, once they were disarmed, the killing stopped. Wounded Krath received medical attention. It wasn't kindness. It was procedure. They would face trial. Captain Sumi and Hyun continued their deadly dance in their stealth frigates. They had perfected a tactic that the Krath couldn't counter. The shadow of Busan would appear behind an enemy vessel, disable its engines with a precise strike, then vanish before return fire could be aimed. Seconds later, the ghost of Incheon would appear at a different angle, destroying the target's weapon systems. The Krath ships were left floating helplessly, unable to fight, unable to flee, waiting for boarding teams or surrender orders. Sumi and Hyun didn't waste ammunition on finishing kills. They moved to the next target, and the next, systematically crippling the entire fleet. How many is that? Hyun asked over their private channel. I count 11 for me, 9 for you, Sumi replied. You're slowing down. The night is young, Hyun shot back, already plotting his next attack run. They worked together with the ease of long practice. Their crews barely needed orders anymore. Everyone knew their job. Everyone performed perfectly. This was what human military training produced. Crews that could function like single organisms, ships that moved like extensions of their captain's will. On the eternal horizon, the civilian crew was proving just as deadly as the military. Taeyong had exhausted their conventional weapons minutes ago. Now, he was getting creative. He had rigged the ship's industrial equipment into weapons that would have made military engineers weep with either admiration or horror. Captain, I've got an idea, Taeyang said, studying his displays. It's completely insane. Tell me, Minho replied. We still have those magnetic loading cranes in Cargo Bay 3, the ones we use for moving container modules. I can reconfigure them to launch cargo containers like massive shotgun shells, fill them with debris, metal scraps, anything with mass. Minho actually smiled. Do it. 5 minutes later, the Eternal Horizon fired its first cargo container. The magnetic crane accelerated it to incredible velocity and released it. The container tumbled through space, spinning wildly, before slamming into a Krath frigate. The impact was devastating. The container didn't penetrate the armor, but it didn't need to. The kinetic energy alone crushed the frigate's forward section like a tin can. It works, Taeyong laughed. It actually works. Loading another container. Yuna's voice came over the internal comm from engineering. Yeah, it works, but you're tearing apart my loading crane. I need 10 minutes to reinforce it, or the next shot will rip it off the hull. You've got 5 minutes, Taeyang replied cheerfully. In the Velen convoy, the merchant families watched the battle in stunned silence. They had expected to die. They had said goodbye to each other, held their children close, and waited for the end. Now they watched as human ships tore through the Krath fleet like it was nothing. One Velen captain, a trader named Keeper Telith, couldn't take his eyes from the display. The humans fought with a ferocity he had never witnessed. They took damage that would cripple most vessels and kept fighting. They executed maneuvers that should be impossible. They acted with a coordination and ruthlessness that seemed almost supernatural. Are they going to win? His navigator asked, voice trembling with hope. I think they already have, Tilith replied quietly. He was right. The battle had lasted 17 minutes so far. Of the original 67 Krath vessels, 41 were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 26 were trying desperately to flee, but human ships had formed a perimeter. Nothing was getting out. The Krath commander, his flagship crippled by one of Sumi's precision strikes, watched his fleet die. He had thought humans were just another species, maybe a bit tougher than most. But nothing his experienced raiders couldn't handle. He had been catastrophically wrong. These humans didn't fight like civilized species. They didn't follow the unspoken rules of galactic warfare. They didn't posture or threaten or try to minimize casualties. They simply identified their enemy and removed it from existence with terrifying efficiency. Admiral Jiho's voice cut through the chaos again. Krath vessels attempting to flee, this is your final warning. Power down your engines immediately. We have authorized the use of extreme force. You will not leave this sector. 3 Krath ships ignored the warning, burning their engines at maximum power, trying to reach faster than light speed. They almost made it. Then, human interceptor missiles, traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, caught them. The ships simply ceased to exist, converted to expanding clouds of plasma and debris. The other fleeing vessels powered down their engines immediately. The killing stopped as suddenly as it had begun. Human ships took up positions around the disabled Krath vessels. Boarding teams were dispatched. Medical ships moved toward both the Velen convoy and the surrendered pirates. The Eternal Horizon drifted to a stop near the Velen flagship. Its hull was scorched black in places, trailing atmosphere from a dozen breaches. But it was still flying, still protecting. Captain Minho opened a channel to the Velen ships. This is Captain Minho of the Terran vessel Eternal Horizon. The threat has been neutralized. You are safe now. Are any of your people injured? Keeper Tilith stared at the human captain's face on his screen. The human looked tired, his uniform stained, but his eyes were kind. Yes, we have wounded. But how did you... Your ship is so small, and there were so many of them. Minho's expression was gentle. You called for help. We came. That's all that matters. Chalk Deathworlders. Respond Alien SOS with a ruthless fleet response. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from 200 species gathered to discuss what everyone was calling the Krath incident. Tension filled the vast circular room. The holographic display in the center showed footage from the battle, recorded by the Velen convoy's sensors. The council members watched in silence as the video played. They saw the human cargo ship ram through a Krath destroyer. They saw Commander Nari's vessel charge directly into enemy fire. They saw the boarding pods launched at suicide speeds. They saw the systematic, brutal efficiency with which humanity had dismantled a pirate fleet that had terrorized the sector for decades. When the video ended, the silence stretched for a long moment. Finally, the council speaker, an elderly Tarthian with silver scales, gestured for discussion to begin. The Zenth representative was first to speak. His insectoid body clicked and chittered as his translator converted the sounds to standard galactic language. What we witnessed was a violation of every first contact and military engagement protocol. The humans didn't verify the threat. They didn't consult the council. They didn't attempt diplomatic resolution. They simply attacked. Ambassador Jiwoo sat in the human delegation section, her face carefully neutral. She had known this was coming. Earth had broken rules. The question was whether the Council would punish them for it. The Aquilian ambassador, her feathers ruffling with agitation, spoke next. The Zenth representative is correct. Humanity deployed military forces without Council approval. They engaged in combat without exhausting peaceful options. This sets a dangerous precedent. What if they had been wrong? What if the Krath had a legitimate grievance? Keeper Tyleth, the Velen captain who had sent the distress call, rose from his seat. His voice was quiet but steady. "May I speak?" The council speaker nodded. The floor recognizes Keeper Tyleth of the Velen merchant fleet. Tyleth moved to the center of the chamber. He was a small being, herbivorous and gentle by nature. His species had never been warriors. "I was there. I sent the distress call that brought the humans. My family was aboard my ship. My children were aboard. The Krath were not there for negotiation or trade disputes. They were there to kill us and take our cargo. They have done this to dozens of convoys over the years." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of various representatives. The humans didn't ask for permission. They didn't form committees. They heard that children were in danger and they came. While this council would have spent 3 days debating proper procedure, my family would have died. Instead, they are alive. The humans saved us. The Aquilian ambassador shifted uncomfortably. "We understand your gratitude, Keeper Tyleth. But emotion cannot override law. The humans took military action without authorization." "Then your laws are wrong," Tyleth said simply. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. A civilian challenging the council directly was almost unheard of. The council speaker called for order. "Captain Minho of the Terran vessel, Eternal Horizon, has been summoned to give testimony. The council will now hear from him." Minho entered the chamber through the main doors. He still wore his uniform, though it had been cleaned. He walked to the center with steady steps and stood beside Keeper Tyleth. He didn't look nervous or apologetic. He looked calm and resolute. "Captain Minho," the council speaker began, "you are here to answer for your actions in the Outer Rim sector. You deployed your vessel in response to a distress call without following proper verification protocols. You engaged hostile forces without council approval. You placed your crew at extreme risk. What do you say to these charges?" Minho took a moment before answering. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly through the chamber. "I say that I heard people calling for help, and I responded. The Krath were attacking civilians. They had children aboard those ships. Every second I spent following proper procedure was another second those families were in danger. So yes, I broke protocol. I would do it again." The Zenth representative clicked angrily. "You cannot simply decide which laws to follow based on your personal judgment. That is chaos." "No," Minho replied, turning to face the insectoid diplomat. "Chaos is letting pirates murder innocent families while we fill out forms. Chaos is letting evil flourish because we're too concerned with following proper channels." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species supported Minho's position. Others were outraged at his defiance. The council speaker struggled to maintain order. Finally, a new voice cut through the noise. It came from the holographic display. Admiral Jiho appeared, broadcasting from Luna. His presence commanded immediate attention. "Members of the Galactic Council," Jiho began, his voice formal but firm. "I am Admiral Jiho of the Terran Defense Forces. I authorized the military response that followed Captain Minho's initial engagement. I take full responsibility for the deployment of human forces without council approval." The council speaker leaned forward. "Admiral, you understand this is a serious violation of—" "I understand perfectly," Jiho interrupted. "I also understand that for millions of years this galaxy has had the luxury of civilization. You have protocols, procedures, measured responses. That is admirable. But Earth taught us different lessons." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We learned that predators don't respond to paperwork. We learned that when someone is in danger, immediate action saves lives. We learned that sometimes being civilized means being willing to become uncivilized to protect those who cannot protect themselves." The Aquilian ambassador spoke up. "What you describe as vigilante justice, it's barbaric. Perhaps, Jiho acknowledged, but the Velen families are alive. The Krath fleet is destroyed. The sector is safer. If that's barbaric, then I accept the label. Ambassador Jiwoo stood, knowing this was her moment to shape the future of human-galactic relations. The Galactic Council must make a choice. You can punish humanity for acting quickly and decisively. You can maintain your protocols and procedures, knowing that sometimes they result in tragedy. Or you can recognize that sometimes you need a species willing to do what's necessary. She moved to stand beside the holographic image of Admiral Jiho. Humanity offers the galaxy a partnership. When diplomatic solutions work, we will support them. When negotiations succeed, we will celebrate them. But when innocents are in danger and time is running out, humanity will act. We will be the ones who get our hands dirty so others don't have to. The chamber fell silent. What Jiwoo was proposing was unprecedented. She was essentially asking the Council to authorize humanity as a rapid response force, operating outside normal channels when circumstances demanded it. The Council speaker called for a recess to consider the matter. For 6 hours, the representatives debated behind closed doors. Species divided along interesting lines. The peaceful, herbivorous species generally supported the human position, having been victims of piracy and aggression for centuries. The more militaristic species were divided, some respecting humanity's strength, others feeling threatened by it. Finally, the Council reconvened. The speaker's voice was grave. The Council has reached a decision. By a vote of 107 to 93, we hereby establish the Rapid Response Authorization. This protocol grants the Terran Defense Forces the authority to engage in emergency military interventions when civilian lives are at immediate risk and standard procedures would result in unacceptable casualties. The chamber erupted again, this time in shock. The humans had won, but the speaker continued. However, this authorization comes with strict conditions. All such interventions must be reported to the Council within 6 hours. Human forces may not occupy territory or engage in conquest. This authorization applies only to defense of civilians and counter-piracy operations. Any violation will result in immediate suspension of humanity's council membership. Jiwoo bowed respectfully. The Terran government accepts these terms. As the session ended and delegates filed out, the Aquilian ambassador approached Jiwoo. You've made yourselves into the galaxy's attack dogs. I hope you understand the responsibility that carries. Jiwoo met her gaze steadily. We understand perfectly. And when your people are in danger, when your children are crying for help, you'll be glad we're here. The Aquilian had no response to that. In the human delegation section, Minho stood with Keeper Telith. The Velen captain looked at the human with profound gratitude. Thank you. Not just for saving us, but for fighting for the right to save others. Minho smiled tiredly. We're from a death world, Keeper Tillith. We survived because we learned to protect our own. Now the galaxy is our own. We'll protect all of it. News of the Council's decision spread across the galaxy within hours. Reactions were mixed. In peaceful sectors, civilians felt safer knowing humans would respond to emergencies. In lawless regions, pirates and raiders began avoiding systems with any human presence. The Krath horde, once feared across multiple sectors, ceased to exist. The survivors faced trial. Their bases were dismantled. Other pirate groups watched and learned. Attacking civilians in human-protected space was suicide. Humanity had announced itself not just as members of the galactic community, but as its protectors. The Deathworlders had found their role among the stars. Deathworlders respond. Alien SOS with a ruthless fleet response. 6 months had passed since the Krath incident. The galaxy had changed in ways both obvious and subtle. The most visible change was the dramatic drop in piracy across the outer sectors. Raids that had been routine for decades simply stopped. Criminal organizations that had operated openly for generations went into hiding or disbanded entirely. The reason was simple. Humans were everywhere now. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the Eternal Horizon, watching cargo containers being loaded at a busy trade station. His ship had been fully repaired after the battle, upgraded even. courtesy of a grateful Velen merchant guild. He still ran medical supplies to the outer colonies, but now his convoy was escorted by 3 Velen security vessels. The irony wasn't lost on him. Hana was at her navigation station, plotting their next route. Taeyong was running diagnostics on their new, actual military-grade weapon systems. Yuna was in engineering, probably talking to the engines like they were old friends. Everything was normal, except nothing was the same. "Captain," Hana said, looking up from her display, "we're being hailed by the peaceful dawn. It's Keeper Tillith." Minho smiled. "Put him through." The Velen captain's face appeared on the screen, his features relaxed and happy. "Captain Minho, I heard you were in the sector. My family wanted me to pass along our greetings. My daughter asks about you constantly. She wants to be a ship captain like you when she grows up." "Tell her to study hard," Minho replied warmly. "The galaxy needs good captains." After the call ended, Taeyang spoke up. "It's strange, isn't it? 6 months ago, we were just a cargo crew. Now we're famous. The Velen treat us like heroes. Half the species in the galaxy either love us or fear us." "Both, probably," Minho said. "That's the price of what we did. We saved lives, but we also showed the galaxy what humans are capable of when we decide something needs to end." At Terran Defense Command on Luna, Admiral Jiho reviewed reports from the newly formed Rapid Response Fleet. Commander Nari had been promoted to lead the specialized force, 12 human vessels permanently assigned to potential conflict zones. Her ships patrolled the sectors where piracy had been worst, their presence alone enough to discourage most criminal activity. Nari's daily report was typical. 2 distress calls, both resolved before her fleet arrived because the mere knowledge that humans were nearby made aggressors think twice. 1 diplomatic escort mission completed without incident. 0 combat engagements. "The galaxy is learning," Jiho said to his second-in-command. "They're learning that we respond immediately, decisively, and without mercy for those who threaten innocence." "Some say we've become the thing we fought against," his second replied carefully. "That we're using fear as a weapon." Jiho considered that. "Perhaps, but fear of consequences isn't the same as fear of random violence. We don't attack the innocent. We don't raid or conquer. We simply ensure that those who would harm others understand there will be swift justice. If that makes us feared, so be it. Better to be feared by criminals than mourned by the families we failed to save." Captain Doyen had taken on a new role, training alien crews in human combat tactics. His facility on Mars hosted dozens of species, all trying to learn how humans fought so effectively. Most couldn't handle the physical demands. Humans evolved under higher gravity with faster reflexes and greater endurance. But some principles could be adapted. "The key," Doyen explained to a class of Tarthian military officers, "is accepting that sometimes speed matters more than perfection. Your protocols call for verification, consultation, measured response. Those are good principles in most situations. But when lives hang in the balance, hesitation kills. You must be willing to act on incomplete information and accept the consequences." A Tarthian officer raised a clawed hand. "But what if the information is wrong? What if we harm innocents?" "Then you accept responsibility," Doyen said simply. "That's the burden of rapid response. You might make mistakes, but the alternative is definitely allowing harm to occur while you gather perfect intelligence. We choose the possibility of error over the certainty of inaction." Captains Sumi and Hyun had become legends in the intelligence community. Their stealth frigates ran covert operations across the galaxy, gathering information on criminal organizations, tracking slave traders, mapping pirate bases. They operated in the shadows, but their reputation had grown to mythical proportions. Criminals told stories about ghost ships that appeared from nowhere, disabled your vessel, and vanished before you could respond. About human captains who could see in the dark, move without sound, strike without warning. Most of the stories were exaggerated, but Sumi and Hyun encouraged the rumors. Fear was a useful tool. "How many pirate bases have we mapped?" Hyun asked during one of their rare face-to-face meetings. 47, Sumi replied. Reviewing her data, Admiral Jiho wants to hit them all simultaneously. One coordinated strike to decapitate the criminal infrastructure in this entire sector. That's ambitious, Hyun said. Also completely insane. Sumi grinned. So, it's perfect for us. Ambassador Ji Woo had become one of the most influential voices in the Galactic Council. Other species sought her counsel on security matters. She walked a careful line, promoting humanity's capabilities while trying to prevent the galaxy from becoming too dependent on human protection. We can't be everywhere, she explained to a group of Velen ambassadors who were requesting permanent human military presence in their space. And honestly, you shouldn't want us to be. Learn from our methods. Build your own rapid response capabilities. We'll help you train, provide equipment, share intelligence, but you must be able to defend yourselves. It was a delicate balance. Humanity wanted to help, but not to become the galaxy's permanent military force. They had no interest in empire building. They simply wanted to ensure that what happened to the Velen convoy never happened again. On Earth, public opinion about humanity's new role was divided. Some celebrated their species' rise to prominence. Others worried about the burden and responsibility. News programs debated endlessly about whether humanity should be the galaxy's protectors or focus on their own development. In a quiet moment, Admiral Jiho stood before a memorial at Terran Defense Command. It listed the names of every human who had died in space since leaving Earth. The list was longer than he liked, but shorter than it could have been. Ambassador Jiwoo joined him. Second thoughts? She asked gently. Always, Jiho admitted. We've taken on an enormous responsibility. We've made ourselves the galaxy's rapid response force. What if we fail? What if we make a terrible mistake? Then we'll deal with it, Jiwoo said. But consider the alternative. Before the Krath incident, pirates operated openly. Convoys were raided regularly. Civilians died while the council debated proper procedure. Now, piracy is down 78%. Criminal organizations are dismantling. The galaxy is safer. At the cost of fear, Jiho said. Half the galaxy is afraid of us. Let them be afraid, Jiwoo replied firmly. Fear is honest. It means they understand what we're capable of. And more importantly, it means criminals think twice before attacking innocents. If that fear saves lives, I can live with it. Jiho nodded slowly. You're probably right. I just hope we don't lose ourselves in the process. Earth gave us strength, but it also gave us compassion. We have to maintain both. Far across the galaxy, a new threat was emerging. Reports reached the Council of the Kryn Dominion, a militaristic empire from beyond the galactic rim. They had crushed 3 member species in rapid succession. Their fleets were massive, their tactics brutal. They showed no interest in diplomacy or negotiation. The Galactic Council convened emergency sessions. Delegates debated sanctions, diplomatic outreach, defensive alliances. The discussions went on for days with no resolution. Humanity watched and waited. Then, the Kryn made their first move into core council territory, invading a peaceful agricultural world. The invasion was swift and ruthless. Millions died in the first hours. The council continued to debate. Admiral Jiho made his decision. He activated Protocol Shepard for the second time. Every human military vessel received emergency deployment orders. The entire Terran Defense Force began mobilizing for war. Jiho sent a message to the Kryn Dominion leadership. His face appeared on their command vessels, calm and deadly serious. Behind him, the vast assembly of human warships gathered, a fleet that had grown significantly since the Krath incident. This is Admiral Jiho of the Terran Defense Forces. The species of the Galactic Council are under our protection. You have invaded their territory. You have harmed innocents. You have murdered millions. He paused, letting his words sink in. We are humanity. We evolved on a death world that tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to kill it back. We survived extinction events, ice ages, plagues, and wars. We reached the stars because nothing on our planet could stop us. Behind him, the human fleet formed up, every ship ready for combat. Hundreds of vessels, each crewed by beings from Earth, each carrying the lessons learned from surviving on a Class 12 death world. You now have our attention, Jiho continued, his voice dropping to something cold and final. We know your fleet size. We know your capabilities. We know where your supply lines are. And we are coming for you. He leaned forward, his eyes hard. You have one opportunity to avoid what happens next. Withdraw from council space immediately. Release all prisoners. Pay reparations. Face trial for war crimes. You have 12 hours to respond. The transmission ended. In the Kryn command ship, their military leaders watched the recording in silence. They had conquered dozens of species. They had faced fleets 10 times larger than the human force. They were confident in their superiority. But something about the human admiral's eyes, about the cold certainty in his voice, about the way those ships moved with such coordinated purpose, made them hesitate. 12 hours later, the Kryn sent their response. It was not surrender. The human fleet jumped to faster than light speed, heading directly for the invasion zone. The galaxy would soon learn another lesson about humanity. The Krath incident had shown what humans could do against pirates and raiders. Now the Kryn would learn what happened when humanity went to war. Captain Minho received the mobilization order while still at the trade station. He looked at his crew, at Hana and Taeyang and Yuna. They looked back at him with determination. Set course for the rally point, Minho ordered. The cargo can wait. People need us. The eternal horizon. Undocked and turned toward the stars. Across the galaxy, thousands of human ships did the same. Military vessels, civilian craft, exploration ships, mining vessels, all of them responding to the call. All of them remembering why humanity had fought so hard to reach the stars. Not for conquest, not for glory, but to ensure that when someone called for help, Deathworlders would respond.